Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungary's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number. Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
it's a rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
and
they didn't bring up
I'm
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
okay.
And I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people.
I offer personalized one-on-one genealogy consultations for $75, but understanding that times are tough, from hurricanes to rising prices, I wanted to find a way to help further. In honor of Indigenous Peoples Day, I'm offering a special opportunity this week. a group consultation for just $35 for those who may not be able to book a one-on-one consultation. You'll still receive the same valuable information as in a private meeting. The only difference is that you'll be learning and asking questions in a group setting with fellow participants on a virtual call. To schedule a $35 group consultation, please email mike@keymediapro.com and include group consultation in the subject line. Looking forward to connecting with you.
What is the lesson? What is this telling us?
Well, there are several things that are significant about it. Of course, one of them is the way that colonialism tries to develop all kinds of elaborate classification terms for different kinds of people. But that's another subject. The most significant thing here is to reveal the much greater amounts of Native American ancestry that are present within the African American population than most people realize, because they might have been misled by the use of terms like mulatto and also people of color. Colored people included Native Americans, for example, in the United States area.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment.
All right. Hit the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the program. The Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission, and let's get on with the content. Unless you've been sleeping under a rock, you probably know Kamala Harris recently got absolutely destroyed on Fox News. I mean, now I see why she doesn't do unscripted interviews. Now I see where whenever she gets interviewed, she has to get the questions in advance or read from a teleprompter. Now I see why, because she cannot stand on her square to save her life. Let's go ahead and take a look at the debacle.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a
which
number.
Is,
Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system.
The point is, he just asked you a fucking question. How many millions of criminal migrants did you release from custody and unleash on American citizens? Was it 1 million? Was it 3 million? Was it 6 million? This bitch gonna say, well, let's get to the point. That's a deflection tactic. This is politics. This is technology.
And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a
which
number.
Is,
do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of 6 million people
that
have been
needs to be-
released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress before we worked on infrastructure.
Guys, this is called filibustering. It's called filibustering. Hey, why did you guys open up the border and let all these migrants come over here and rape little girls? Oh, well, you know what? Before I did this act, and before I did this act, and before I did this bill, and before I did that bill, and before I did that other bill, I introduced the bill to look at the migrants.
Before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called
And-
the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
Ooh, he's cooking her ass. That's why she's upset, because she's getting flame boiled right now, y'all. She's getting flame broiled. He said, oh, yeah, you introduced a bill. The bill actually made it legal for illegal immigrants to get a pathway to citizenship. Whoa. So the bill she's trying to talk about, yeah, the migrant crisis is an issue. I introduced a bill. Bitch, that bill was to help the migrants come over, not to stop it. And she cut him off because she know he was about to start cooking.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the Senate,
I'm
and
in
they
the
didn't
middle
bring up
of
that bill.
About slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
The point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and...
Hey, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. If you are really invested in this political theater, if you really do believe that presidents are elected and not selected, then goddamn, do you want a president who can't even get through a Fox News interview? How is she supposed to advocate on a global scale for our country? How is she supposed to go bang against Russia and North Korea and protect us from the terrorists, foreign and domestic, and blase, 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 blah? Come on. Come on. The military came out and said there's aliens. Is Kamala going to protect us from the aliens? I think Trump will. He said something about a space force. Y'all know I'm joking. Y'all know I'm joking. I don't endorse either political candidate. I've said time and time again, I only vote in local politics. I don't vote on a national scale because I have personal beliefs about that system. But guys, if you're invested in it, who do you want? Someone like this who's so incompetent, she can't even get through a few kind of tough questions?
Or put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election...
Why does this bitch have to make everything about Donald Trump? I don't think this dude even said anything about Trump. Like, can she just advocate for her policies without bringing up Trump? I mean, is that possible? I'm sure Trump can do an interview without mentioning Kamala. But she just somehow has to tie this to the boogeyman, because you know what she tried to do initially was vote for me. I say I'm black. When she found out that wasn't going to work, because we pulled up her genealogy and we saw that she's a Hindu, Irish, Jamaican descendant of slave masters, then she said, you know what I'll do? You know what? Let's just say, hey, you have to vote for me because Trump's such a bad guy. Remember when Trump used to be president and like the world almost ended, right, guys? We went to DEFCON 5. You know, like nukes were flying in the air and it was like Red Dawn, and, you know, Asians and Russians were parachuting from the sky because, you know, Trump was in office, right, guys? I mean, she talks like we didn't already have this motherfucker in office for a few years. It's not going to be the end of the world.
This is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungary, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So,
guys, don't get it twisted. A lot of you may be new viewers. I don't pledge allegiance to either party. I think it's two wings of the same bird. These motherfuckers fake the funk on stage to control the masses behind closed doors. They're all members of the same Freemason lodges, secret societies, sororities, and sororities. So this is all for show. This is all for show. This is all for show. But with that said, certain things do change depending on which party has the presidency. So while on a global scale, no matter what, you know, the higher order of things is still going to be carried out regardless of who's the presidential puppet, certain things like border policy does change, albeit temporarily. And if we're just going to call a spade, these little girls would not have been raped and murdered if Trump was in office. Because if Trump was in office, the borders would not be wide the fuck open like this. Ugh.
Migrant encounters, they topped Bill 190,000
there's
people
There's a
in
selfie
December.
on another selfie. You see the wall in the distance, right?
Yeah.
So at some point they came through, whether there was a hole there or a gap in the wall, who knows? But they'll be processed. And very soon you're going to see our drone cameras overhead showing you where
Kamala Harris got niggas taking selfies, rocking Montclair jackets coming through the border. What? Huh? Y'all don't understand the damage that has been done with Biden and Kamala in office. I don't think you guys understand. I understand. And most of the reason I understand is because it's my job to. I present news to you guys. I let you know what's really what's actually going on nowadays. But guys, when it comes to the migrant crisis, when it comes to the issue with the migrants, y'all don't understand how having a wide open border has directly resulted in the deaths of dozens of young children.
The 22-year-old migrant from the Republic of Congo is facing sex abuse charges allegedly involving an employee of the agency providing services to migrants. The 22-year-old came to Cheektowaga on a bus from New York City. District Attorney John Flynn says Kindo Jansi is accused of committing an act of sexual misconduct against a female employee of that healthcare service provider hired to help the asylum seekers.
Tonight, a migrant has been charged with raping a 15-year-old disabled girl at a Rockland hotel. The case already sparking outcry from local leaders. WBZ's Brandon Truitt is live in Rockland with what was revealed in court today. Brandon?
Well, Chris, the state started booking out all of the rooms in this hotel last year as a part of its emergency assistance shelter program. And authorities have confirmed to us that both the victim and suspect in this case lived here.
I have a patron, I don't know if he's a manager or a National Guard, on the 911 line, 850 Hingham Street. It's going to be for the migrant section.
It was around 7 Wednesday night. Police records show a front desk worker called 911, reporting a 15-year-old disabled girl had been sexually assaulted.
Room 115. Meet the police. EMS response.
Police say they met the teenager in the lobby. Using multiple translators, she told authorities a man in the hotel brought her to his room to help her with an app on her tablet. Once there, he began having sex with her, the girl explained. According to the police report, the girl asked the man to leave her alone, but says that he wouldn't stop.
School bus driver in Rockville is arrested, accused of assaulting a 12-year-old special needs girl. Investigators say the incident happened a week ago, and the assault was recorded on the bus camera.
If you're looking to get genealogy consultation, I highly recommend Mike. You know, he was very thorough, prompt, very knowledgeable. Even taught me some stuff about the background of Indian ancestry and heritage that I didn't know. The biggest piece of it is he taught me how to pull records and really dig into those records to make sure that I have things to match up to be able to take back for my citizenship. So I really appreciate everything he does, and I highly recommend Mike as your genealogist.
Etienne Kabongo facing second-degree rape charges. He has worked at more than a dozen Montgomery County public schools. Police think there could be other victims. School officials say they have to follow protocol to fire him, but he was immediately put on leave and will not return as a driver.
That is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they
And you guys don't understand what's going on right now, or at least some of you may not. Biden and Harris had a program where if they caught criminals trying to sneak into the country, they had a catch and release program where they would release these criminals. They would say, hey, migrant, you just did this crime. We're not going to arrest you. We're just going to charge you. We're going to release you and sign this paper that says you're going to be on your best behavior. And some of these people got caught up on crimes. Biden and Harris program said, you know what, we're going to release you, even though you should be in jail. Just promise to be on your best behavior. And a couple months later, those same criminals rape and kill a 15-year-old girl, and her dead body is found in the bushes. Molest a 16-year-old girl that's disabled in a shelter. Bus driver takes advantage. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And these are people who are known criminals, but they thought, hey, let's catch them and release them. They don't even give American citizens that fucking privilege. When's the last time they said to an American citizen, you know what? You did a crime. You should go to jail right now, but we're going to catch and release you. But the migrants get catch and release, and thousands on debit cards, and thousands on EBT, and free hotel stay. And they raping the disabled girl in the next room. And they trying to rape the hotel worker who's working at the hotel they staying at for free. All right. But if we say close the border, if we say we call it ICE, we racist.
were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss.
And body language is key. She's shaking her head no because she's answering his question subconsciously. He said, will you give those families an apology? She's shaking her head no. But she's a politician, so even though her body is being truthful and saying, no, I'm not going to apologize to those families, no, I'm not gonna, she's a politician, so the lies come out of her mouth so freely. She shakes her head no as she says, it is an unfortunate situation, though. You know, look, she's looking off to the side. Will you apologize to those families? No, but I will say, though, that it is tragic, but no, I ain't gonna apologize for shit. No, I ain't gonna apologize for shit. But I'll say it's a little tragic.
So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening.
But when you say but, that negates everything you just previously said. Come on. If you say but, then you're basically taking away what you just verbalized. I mean, it don't make no damn sense. If I said, hey, Tech Phoenix, you beautiful, but okay. All right. If I said, hey, New Era, you cool, you my Niji, but well, goddamn it, but what? Why would she ever say but after saying that it's an unfortunate event that due to her policies, little girls were slain by criminal illegal migrants?
Happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
Guys, you don't understand. Although these elitists have 100-year plans and they all, inbred cousins working with each other behind the scenes, sometimes there's a wrench thrown in your plan. And what they didn't count on is Sleepy Joe getting oh so sleepy. So what happened was Joe Biden was supposed to run for a second term. By the time Joe Biden's done with the second term, they would have groomed another Democrat to be able to, battle it out for the presidency. But they're scrambling. The Democratic Party is scrambling like Chicken Little. The sky is falling. What do? Trump's about to run again. Biden, we can't run again. Biden, what are we going to do? Oh, let's throw Kamala in the mix. Do you know how much of an uphill fight it is convincing the American people to take a bitch who ain't done shit for us as vice president and now make her president? If she ain't do shit good for us while she was vice president, then why do we give her a promotion? Come on, if you own a business and you have an assistant manager that's shitty, then why are you going to give them a pay increase, a more prestigious title, and make them operations manager? It don't make no sense. But they had to, because they had no other political puppets groomed and ripened and ready. They didn't have their next Barry Obama yet.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara.
What does it have to do with you letting all these criminals come through unabated? I mean, what? Because when you were a San Francisco prosecutor, you prosecuted some gang members? What? Hey, she don't want to talk about them single black parents she prosecuted too, because their kids miss a few days of school.
Cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Oh no, they're cooking this bitch. Oh, they're cooking this bitch. I didn't even know about that one. I didn't know she's advocating for open borders and training operations for prisoners. Damn. Let's see how she's gonna respond. She's so mad right now. She is seething. She said, motherfucker, this isn't what I signed up for. You didn't tell me this was gonna be played. She is so mad. I'm ready for y'all. Are y'all ready?
Are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis.
So she deflected it to Trump. She played tennis, y'all. She just volleyed that right back to Trump. She said, let's talk about Trump. It was Trump's fault. Come on. And shout out to Oswald Kafele. Thank you so much for the Cash App. Very generous contribution. I appreciate the support. Thank you for sliding something in the brown paper bag. And goddamn it, with a name like that, I got to assume that you're African. So shout out to those folks across the pond, if that is the case. I mean, I don't think Oswald Kafele. I mean, Kafele could be Moorish or something. He could be on his Hebrew Israelite tip. I don't know. If you're watching, leave a comment in the live chat. Let me know you're here. But either way, thank you for sliding something in the brown paper bag.
Brown paper bag. Brown paper bag.
To people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to
happened
take
during
responsible for what
his
happened in your
presidency.
administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you
Yeah, like you have to take responsibility for the little girls that were raped and murdered by migrants that you did a catch and release program with. Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny how she just said you have to take advantage for what happened during your administration. Oh, chicken head ass broad. Okay.
You know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black.
I know how to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year.
Wait, hold on. Pause the show. Pause the show. I'm so sorry to offend one of my most gracious donors. Shout out to Oswald. He is in the building. He says, "No, I am not African, brother. Oswald means black and kafele means worth dying for. It's a Muslim." Oh, okay. Hey, my second guess was Moorish, and Moorish, Muslim. I think the Moors might be Muslim. I don't know. I feel like I was a little close. And let me see if I can get this right. I think that this is within the Muslim faith. Assalamu alaikum, and then I believe in return you would say like alaikum salam, right? No? Yeah? Maybe?
I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. You keep repeating the same old plantation bullshit, tired narrative we outgrew. Jokes on you. Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. Ooh.
You support reparations for black people. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit black people.
advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear.
Hey guys, let's see how culturally fluent I am with the Muslims. Maybe this is the right culture. I'm going to be embarrassed if this isn't. Kamala Harris, when I hear her speak, it makes me say, Wallahi. Did I get that right? Maybe? No? Yeah? Let me know, chat.
The voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think?
Hey, speaking of Muslims, it's fucked up that we have this interestingly orchestrated act of terror on 9/11, and because of that we like totally demonize and ostracize Muslims for decades afterwards. And if you really think about it, although there was all them jokes in the media and everybody's looking at a Muslim in a turban, crazy at the airport type shit, right? If you really think about it, by and large, Muslim immigrants ain't really done no damage to our country like that. I mean, depending on what neighborhood you grew up in, you may have positive or negative experience with Muslims. Being, raised in the suburbs, most of the Muslims I came in contact with stereotypically were, tobacco store owners, smoke shop owners, corner store owners, and it was always respectful. But when you compare these Venezuelan migrants and these African migrants and these Haitian migrants, this is a real criminal element. I mean, I'm not sure if you guys heard, but not only is they touching on the kids, but they taking the ducks, y'all. They taking the ducks and the geese. Nobody's safe. Hide your geese, hide your ducks. It's getting wild out here.
We cannot allow any significant non-citizen threat to the children of our community with the
my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 of the license plate, but I got the numbers.
Clark County Communications.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I got a question. This is a non-emergency line, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I'm riding on the trail going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 of the license plate, but I got the numbers.
People say they trust him on the economy than they trust you.
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
How about closing the border?
Field. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Not fun. This is not cool, bro. They really out here decapitating animals.
Haitians, they are taking ducks and cutting their heads off and taking them home to eat them.
I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay.
I knew the places they were talking about. I know the neighborhoods that they're talking about. I know what goes on in Snyder Park. I know that there's ducks and geese all year long, and then to hear that people are feeding off of those wild animals, it's preposterous.
Today's Haitians, tomorrow may be Somalian, it may be African, it may be German, it may be, but we need to stop this today because Martin Luther King fought for this, and we cannot sit back and watch it revive again.
They have fear, a lot of fears going on right now. Some of them are talking about leaving Springfield. Some of them are scared for their life. It's a little bit tough for us.
27-year-old Alexis Farrell was eating a cat on the 1100 block of 13th Street Southeast in Canton.
Stand up.
Officers on scene placed Farrell in handcuffs as a crowd of onlookers watched.
Put your hands behind your back. Someone got rubber gloves. She's covered in blood.
Police believe she killed the cat before eating it. One writing, they saw blood on Alexis's feet, hands, and fur on her.
Issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed.
Jesus Christ, can she say anything without mentioning Donald Trump? He didn't even say nothing about, he didn't ask about Trump. He didn't even, like, no, stop it. She go to sleep having nightmares about Donald.
And implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president.
Damn.
That is what they're saying, 79% of them.
Let this man cook.
Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice President.
Wow. Whenever she fails at bullshitting, she starts trying to laugh her way out of it. Hey, if the country's failing, you're the one who's been in office. Like, yeah, but Donald Trump's been running for, bitch, what? How does that make any sense? How did that make any sense?
79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding it.
And Donald Trump's been running for. Come on, come on. What does Donald Trump running for office have to do with our country not being on track, and you being at the helm for the last 3 years? What the fuck? Yeah, well, Donald's been running. Yeah, I've been in office, but Donald's been. Hey, yes, I've been the manager, but Donald applied to be the manager. I mean, like what?
Turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
you
Vice
and
President.
I both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade.
He said, no, bitch, I don't follow you. she tried to, no, you know what I'm talking about. You feel me right now? No, ma'am, I don't feel you.
People have become, but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
it's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
So
cakewalk
are they misguided, the
for
50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What
God,
is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
Well, he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
My name is Javaris Johnson. I work in the oil and gas industry as a truck driver. I recently just did a consultation for my genealogy with Mike at Key Media Pro. It was awesome. A lot of great information. A lot of stuff I'm going to have to go back and digest because it was so much information, man. And it really helped me to get on the path to enrolling with my tribe and learning everything, man. And it's just a great and awesome experience. You know, I encourage you guys, you know, if you're curious, to go out, do your family tree, and connect with your ancestors.
Telling you your history and telling you what your history is and what it's not, and this and that. But it's refreshing to at least having a framework of what, you know, your possible history is, you know, especially like I say, growing up in being born in Worth County, you know, that was used to be an Indian village. Indian post, and then learning that they, you know, for some reason, 1800s, you know, people were removed. So I wouldn't know until I dig in deeper whether I'm, you know, what side of them I'm on, you know, through your consultation, you know, where you kind of put some perspective to it. You know, if it, like you said, if it was only 4% of Africans that was brought here to this land.
This is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat.
Hey, Kamala, I like you with the melodies. I don't like you when you act tough. Like, who is she trying to intimidate? She thinks she hard body right now, y'all. Look at that look on her face. She thinks she chewing something. She's like, oh. She's like, how dare you? I'm angry now. Look at me. This is my mad face. You won't like me when I'm angry. Trust me, I start smelling like curry when I'm angry. I mean, come on. She tripping.
To the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump. You call Donald Trump. He's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers.
Damn, he's not stable, but he a billionaire, huh? Shit. If an unstable person can be a billionaire, then what's our excuse, huh?
That Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room, and he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden. that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best.
Nah. The American people have a much bigger concern about Sleepy Joe, because before he was Sleepy Joe, we knew him as Creepy Joe.
Oh, no. He's done it again.
Now, the very important thing I told my daughter and granddaughters, no serious guys till you're 30.
No what?
No serious guys till you're 30.
I'll keep that in mind. At least.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all, is it? Getting into a young girl's personal space and telling her not to have any boyfriends until she's 30. And look at how the alarmed Secret Service dude tries to stop this being taped once he sees that Joe has reverted back to this peculiar behaviour. Because this is nothing new. Indeed, Creepy Joe being handsy, inappropriate and invading people's personal space was something the US media used to note. Even the far-left CNN used to report on his weird antics.
There are hugs where you just throw up your arms and go for it. And then there are hugs that keep going and going and going. Joe Biden wouldn't let Hillary go as they met on the tarmac at Scranton Airport. About 4 seconds into the hug, they semi-disengage. Nothing to see here, right? Wrong, because the vice president wouldn't unhand Hillary for almost 16 seconds.
Notice how many times she tries to tap out. She lets it go. He does not. She tap out. Nope. She's just, no, he's still holding on. Okay, second tap out. For God's sake, Joe, you got to let go.
This latest awkward hug would not have been microanalyzed if it hadn't been for all the other overly handy Biden moments. Critics collect them. Times when he gently rearranges a young girl's hair and whispers in her ear, then rearranges some more. There's nothing pervy here. The VP knows he's on camera at these swearing-in ceremonies, and the parents are right there as he leans in for a kiss.
Yes, in the days before Biden was president or running to be president, even leftist outlets were happy to tell you about his bizarre behavior.
Perhaps his most famous hands-on moment came when he put his hands on the wife of Defense Secretary Ash Carter.
I've got a lot of thanks to give out here.
Conservatives panned it.
This is the creepiest thing.
And so did some liberals.
No, that ain't right, man. That ain't right. Why are you appeared to smell her hair?
At least the VP didn't get that close to Hillary.
Now, the late-night comedians used to marvel at Joe's disturbing episodes before Trump broke their brains and turned them into humorless DNC propagandists.
I can still see it!
What could you possibly be saying to her?
I just came from a one-on-one interview with Vice President Biden. He swears he's seen the error of his ways, and for her part, this reporter believes him.
Including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in this situation.
Hey, y'all, let's call a spade a spade. If that's what he does in public, imagine what he does in private.
Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another.
Hey, at least when Trump was talking about grabbing him by the pussy, he was talking about some grown women, okay? Some grown women. Biden over there, hey, lady, let me whisper in your ear. Tell you a little something you might like to hear. Like, what was he when you yanked twin on that little girl? Wait till you see my
running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? this attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
Many know about slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British men. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment. What?
You don't have to try to be something you're not.
Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois.
I know all of that, Mama.
They know this. I am alive because of the blood of the people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world: to be allowed to be.
It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all, who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American. Making music would've thought I had help, but the Indians I know wanna be the chief they self.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, smash the like button on the way in. Subscribe to the channel if you've yet to do so. Hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. You know they still got your boy demonetized and shadow banned, but still here we are. Now, a lot of you guys have been asking me to cover this. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard that Janet Jackson low-key called out Kamala Harris's false flag and identity politics. You know, she was asked about Kamala Harris being the first Black president, and Janet just said straight up, hey, I heard her daddy was white. I mean, I heard she was Indian. I don't know nothing about her being Black. And you know what? A lot of people started running defense for Kamala. They started to publish a lot of misinformation, making the claim that Janet Jackson took back those statements and apologized. But that was not the case at all. Let's take a look.
In an interview with The Guardian, a reporter brought up the U.S. election, saying to Janet that Kamala Harris could be the first Black female president of the United States, to which Ms. Jackson replied, "She's not Black. That's what I heard, that she's Indian." Continuing, her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that they discovered her father was white.
And look, even she's saying, hey, I haven't really stayed on top of this. I haven't really watched the news, but this is what I heard. And you know what? Janet Jackson is wrong. Is she a legend? Is she an icon? Yes, but if she is wrong, she is wrong. And I'm going to call out Janet Jackson right now for being incorrect, because facts matter and the truth matters, goddammit. And Kamala Harris's father is not white. Kamala Harris's father is white and Hindu. Yeah. He got a little bit of melanin, guys. He's not full white. You know, he's half Irish, half Hindu, but guess what? That still means he's not a Black American, nor a foundational Black American, nor a native Black American. Let's get into it.
Father was white. She didn't let the reporter know where she heard this false information, but did say about the election, either way it goes, it's going to be mayhem. After that interview, a man named Mo El Masri issued an apology on her behalf.
Ooh, some Indian came out to defend his fellow Indian Kamala and put out a false statement on Janet's behalf in support of Kamala. Look how these Indians rocking for their own. Look at this. Jafar, sit down. Habibi, take a seat. Aladdin, relax. What?
Behalf, saying her comments on the vice president were based on misinformation. Janet's rep stepped in and told People Mag that Els Masri is not Janet's manager, nor is he affiliated with her camp. The rep says Randy Jackson is Janet's manager. Els Masri spoke to Variety saying, I no longer work for her. I was fired by Janet and Randy after attempts to improve her image in front of public opinion and her fans.
No, you were fired for speaking out of turn and putting words at Janet Jackson's mouth in support of Kamala. You grimy bastard. You grimy bastard. And guys, you see the title, you see the thumbnail. This is not clickbait. Candace Owens has actually done a great job tracing Kamala Harris's genealogy, and she has proven Janet Jackson right. Candace Owens has proved Janet Jackson right when she has heard theories of Kamala not being black, because when we look into her genealogy, when we look into the paper trail as it relates to Kamala Harris's family tree, we don't see nothing that denotes Native Black American. Not at all.
Everything, because this is officially the only podcast.
Oh, and hold on, guys. You know, I got so much information I got to sift through on a daily for you all. I watch things on 2x speed. So let me put this in normal speed real quick.
You need to listen to today. Yesterday, I received an email from a woman all the way in New Zealand who decided to turn into Sherlock Holmes and fully dedicate herself to investigating Kamala Harris and all of these missing documents and all these questions. And what she uncovered is potentially so shocking and so alarming that we can officially close the $1,000 bounty because she's earned it. I mean, she's going to receive the full 1K, because this is now getting dark and twisted. And my suspicions about Kamala Harris potentially pretending that the help was her family maybe have been confirmed. I'm going to let you guys judge. Don't want to get way ahead of myself, but do not go away, and welcome back to Candace.
And guys, I must say, I'm not one to champion or support or big up or dick ride Candace Owens, but if the information is right, the information is right, regardless of the source. And I know she did some egregious things, especially when it relates to the whole George Floyd situation. But hey, if she's done some paper trail genealogy on Kamala, Scamala, Obamala, then let's see what the findings reveal.
Don't even know where we begin here. I mean, I'm just shaken. So look, if you're just jumping into this, you got to stop and you got to go back 2 episodes and play catch up, episode 70 and episode 71, because we're not going to do too much recapping here because I want to jump right into this. Basically, someone came for Janet Jackson and I answered the door. It was a discrepancy that was in Kamala's book, a woman that she said was her grandmother named Beryl, a picture of her and her grandmother Beryl. Here it is.
And game recognized game. Ever since Candace got fired from the Daily Wire, she been trying to score points with the black folks. She said people was coming for Auntie Janet, and Candace answered the door and took off her earrings and said, I'm a scrap for Janet Jackson's honor. All right, Candace. All right, take a seat.
Is visiting my paternal grandmother Beryl in Jamaica. And then I did just a brief search online and found out that Beryl allegedly died 4 years before Kamala was born. So that's a major red flag. Then I had a little bit of a gut instinct. The photos that were being presented of Kamala and her grandparents. Great.
And guys, if that just went over your head, I don't blame you. Candace Owens' voice is a bit annoying if you ask me. But Kamala, her main claim to being black is this photo that Kamala shows. Kamala proudly shows this photo and says, hey, this is me and my grandma or my great-great-grandma or something. This is us, right? Well, when Candace's team did the genealogy, it turns out Kamala's grandmother died 4 years before she was born. So this woman that she's posing in a photo with, who doesn't look happy at all, who looks like, damn, I'm paid to be here right now. This is most likely the help. This is most likely a nanny. This is most likely a Jamaican house servant of sorts that posed for a photo op. I mean, how are you going to take a photo with this woman, claim it's your grandmother, when your grandmother died 4 years before you were born? Guys, the truth is stranger than fiction.
Feel that maybe this woman was the help. I'm not saying that because she's Black. I'm not racist against Black people. I am Black. I'm saying this because there's just a lack of emotion there. Like, I don't know if it's just my grandparents, but when they're with you, they're like super cuddly and cute. And this woman's just kind of very serious each time that she's being featured here. So anyways, what happened was we sourced Beryl's birth certificate. And then my instinct got a little bit stronger because her name was spelled differently in the birth certificate, right? So you see that it says Beryl spelled Beril, Magdalene. And we know for a fact, by the way, so people that are submitting other birth certificates, this is definitively the correct birth certificate because it says Iris Finnegan. And we know based on Kamala and Kamala's father, Donald J. Harris, that Iris Finnegan is the mother of Beryl. And then we see that her name changes, the spelling of her name changes rather by the time that we looked at her marriage certificate. Suddenly you can see that the marriage certificate has her name being spelled with a Y. Now that to me signaled that maybe she definitely is the help, and I'll tell you why. So my grandfather, before he passed away, maybe like 10 years before he passed away, I got kind of obsessed with trying to find all of these documents pertaining to his life because I realized like that's my ancestry. And I was having a ton of trouble mining his grandmother's information because on each document, her name was spelled differently as well as other people in the family. And I was like, Granddad, why is everyone's name spelled differently depending on the document? Like, this is very confusing. Why is it sometimes spelled Liza versus Eliza versus like Lizbeth? That was his grandmother's name. And he explained to me that they didn't know how to read and write. So you forget this. You forget that you had a world, the majority of people couldn't read and write, especially if you were not considered like a high class person. My grandfather grew up on a sharecropping farm. And so what that meant was even if you had a name, if you couldn't read and write, you were going up to the register, whether it was for birth, whatever it was, and you were just telling somebody the name. You weren't saying like, hi, it's Candace, Candace. You're just saying Candace, and one person might spell it Candis, somebody might spell it Candice. If you do not know how to read and write, you don't recognize these discrepancies. So that actually, I thought was a good thing in terms of like my idea that this woman could have potentially just been the help, maybe like on my scent. But I didn't want to be too convinced. Obviously, you know, I lean into the conspiracy mindset because we've been lied to so many times. But like I said, we did find that marriage certificate between Beryl and Lawford.
And shout out to Momo. Momo says, isn't Candace Owens also Jamaican? Yes, Candace Owens is not a native Black American. This is why heritage is important. This is why genealogy is so paramount. Ever since she got fired from the Daily Wire, she's trying to do a new grift where she's really trying to cosplay as a Black American and act like she's a part of our community. And look, she's defending Janet Jackson. Look, she's interviewing Kanye and going on Black podcasts. No. You're not like us. But if you got some valid info, we're going to take a look.
Newland, which was in July of 1944. And I want to be clear, guys, we know for a fact this is the correct Beryl. So we're not confused here and looking for more documentation when it comes to the birth or the marriage because the correct parents are listed. You can see Patrick Finnegan is listed. And so we know that Beryl's parents are Iris Finnegan and Patrick Finnegan. So that is the correct parent, the correct marriage certificate. But we had no idea who Lawford Newland was. We had no idea that Beryl had allegedly been married after she birthed Donald Harris. That would be Kamala Harris's father. Thought that was like quite strange. She would have been 6 years old in 1944. Donald Harris was born in 1938. So this means that she got married to this guy, Lawford Newland, and she had a 6-year-old. So I thought that was quite strange. I couldn't find anything on Lawford Newland, but somebody on the team was able to determine that he arrived on a ship to New Orleans. He arrived in New Orleans, from Jamaica in May of 1943. So we're showing you here the ship manifest, and Lawford Newland is on the ship. and he is listed as, he's listed as a Negro. He's Black. It says his marital status is
How to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year, I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless.
Yeah, y'all, this is wild. This is wild. And although I don't rock with Candace, I gotta admit, when I was watching this, I was geeking out a bit because this is the meticulous paper trail genealogy research that I do with dozens of Black Americans each and every week. We look through the census, birth certificates, death certificates, and when we do that, we typically find not ancestors coming from a slave boat from Africa, but we find ancestors that are affiliated with American Indian tribes.
Mike is the real deal. His information is real. He's a humble brother, and he's all about the information. He's not about, personal gain or personal applause, personal credit. This is about our nation. It's not about one individual, but it's about us collectively as a people. And Mike is all about that, So we stand behind the brother 100%.
If you have any doubt, get it out your head immediately. So yeah, I'm going to continue to work with Mike as much as I can. So I want to say thank you, Mike, for actually taking the time out and talk with me and my husband. You definitely informed us on a lot of things. And the people out there that's watching, he will also inform you on a lot of things that you may not even know about. So I want to say thank you again, Mike.
Trip the year before he got married to Beryl. So quite strangely, he went to New Orleans, and then I guess he at some point had to have gone back just a year later to get married. We still have not been able to locate the relevant marriage certificate between Oscar Harris. Now that's, again, Kamala's dad's father is Oscar Harris. We cannot find that marriage between Kamala's grandfather and Beryl. So that's a huge question mark there, right? Where is...
And if any of you guys are getting lost in the technicalities of all this genealogy research, basically what Candace is saying is the math ain't mathin'. If you do somebody's genealogy, like how I meet with Black folks every week and help them trace their family tree, right? It shouldn't bring up that many questions, your grandparents are married. Here's their marriage document. This is your great-great-grandparent. Here's their census record. But when we go to look at Kamala Harris's ancestry, the math ain't math, and it's not making sense. You said that this is you in a photo with your grandma, but your grandma on record died 4 years before you were born. There's no record of your great-grandfather marrying your great-grandma. It's just not making no sense.
That marriage certificate, if you guys find it, we're checking our emails. And we're obviously aware that there are a lot of different Beryls that are being born in Jamaica at different times. Some people are like, this could be the case of two Beryls, and they're sending us different birth certificates. Like I said, we know we have the correct birth certificate. We know we have the correct marriage certificate. We know for a fact that this Beryl did get married and that Donald should have been 6 years old when she got married. So it begs the question, was this her second marriage? Did she have a child out of wedlock with Oscar Harris? Did she have Donald? And then did she get married? Because it lists her on her marriage certificate as a spinster, which means that she's not married, obviously. And then she gets married to Lawford Newland. And then at some point they would have had to divorce if she remarried and got married to Oscar. So she would have had to have gotten with him, had a child with him, married somebody else, divorced that somebody else, and then gotten back together with Oscar and gotten married. That's a lot of movement. Again, we don't have any documentation, so we're not going to speculate. But Beryl in general, I'm not describing her as the dog that's not barking, okay? So some people were saying, well, I've seen on different websites that there was also a Beryl Harris that died in 1995, and maybe this could potentially be her. We've done the math on that. No, that woman would have been born in 1914. Like I said, we know for a fact Beryl was born. The birth certificates are probably the most relevant source because you obviously wouldn't have a birth certificate written years later after the fact that your child was born. It says that Beryl was born in 1917. But I started going back to that piece that Donald Harris wrote, remember the first time that we were kind of introduced to the fact that Kamala Harris was Black, it was because Donald Harris wrote this piece, which came right behind Kamala Harris's book, Reflections of a Jamaican Father. And I just would like to, by the way, really stress to you how Black he was trying to suddenly make them. Like, I'm just going to read you the first sentence of this.
And before we get into this, let's remember Jamaican does not mean Black. Jamaican is a nationality. That's not an ethnicity. There's Chinese Jamaicans, Irish Jamaicans, Asian Jamaicans, and everything in between. Just because you're Jamaican, just because you live in Jamaica, don't mean you're Black. Their whole motto was one nation out of many. So a lot of us had, the wool pulled over our eyes with the, Jamaican, because when we think about Jamaicans, we think about Black folks. Nah, go to Jamaica and it'll surprise you.
By Donald J. Harris, Kamala's father. As a child growing up in Jamaica, I often heard it said by my parents and family friends, "Member where you come from." And then he goes on and he writes, "My one big regret is that Kamala and her sister did not come to know very well the two most influential women in my life, Miss Chrissy and Miss Iris." Okay, so those are his grandparents, according to him. Those are both of his grandmothers, maternal and paternal. And then the whole piece is about his grandmother, his two grandmothers. And he wrote, "Both of my grandmothers had the strongest influence on my early upbringing." And then in parentheses, he writes, "Not to exclude, of course, the influence of my dear mother, Miss Beryl, and loving father, Mass Oscar." Like, I think it's supposed to be like Massa, like Mass Oscar. Very strange. Again, nobody that I know calls their mom Miss Beryl, calls their grandmother Miss Iris, and calls their other grandmother Miss Iris. There's something about that doesn't strike me as familial. But again,
and the Massa makes sense because word on the street is her father descends from an Irish slaveholder in Jamaica, that there's supposed to be a town still named after the family in Jamaica present day. So when we see the Massa, yeah. Ooh, when Janet says, "Hey, I heard her daddy's white," yeah, he descends from Irish slave traders, plantation owners, mixed with some Hindu. But all of a sudden, just like tethers do, they start trying to cosplay as some Black folks when it's convenient.
And that speculation doesn't matter. Maybe there is this strange family where everyone, like, they address their mom as Miss, and they address their grandmother as Miss, and they address their other grandmother as Miss, like that. It really isn't up to us to make any conclusions. But that's the first and last time that he mentions his mother, Miss Beryl. Okay. Which signals to me that my theory about her having died young, you're saying you're raised by your grandparents, but your mother is around, but you don't talk about your mother or speak about your mother at all in this entire piece, signals to me that this is correct and your mother died early, okay? You're not mentioning her for a reason. So then this gets crazy. I get an email. Actually, I got two emails, but this one in particular made me sit up straight in bed. Like, I'm not kidding. I was like about to fall asleep and I just decided to check the email box, and I sat up. I sat up just like this and started texting everyone. And I woke my husband up. I was like, "You have to read this email. This is completely crazy." It came all the way from New Zealand. Shout out to New Zealand. I'll be on tour there soon, you guys. Get out there.
And we just had a Cash App come through from Cameron. Cameron, I appreciate the support. Thank you for supporting the show.
Buy some tickets because we're going to talk about this now. That's the only thing I'm going to speak about in New Zealand. But I'm going to just read this email to you because it's just incredible. Kia ora from New Zealand, Candace. My name is blank. And after your first podcast about the family of Kamala Harris yesterday, I went down the rabbit hole all day looking for photos of Beryl Finnegan Harris's brothers and sisters, as you asked. I was so intrigued and I wanted to take up your challenge. I could not find those photos, but I did come across a record that you might be interested in. I noticed on Kamala's birth certificate, you showed that her father, Donald Harris, was 26 at her birth in 1964, giving him a presumable birth year of 1938. That is correct. He was born in 1938. I'm just saying that as an aside. I came across the attached record of a 1-year-old child who died in 1940 in St. Anne's Parish. This infant's name was Donald Harris. You will notice the baby's father's name that is given was Albert Harris, and there's no mother mentioned. However, You will be interested to notice that a person listed as present at the death of the child was none other than Beryl Harris. She has also signed the death record. What are the chances that Beryl had her own baby named Donald in 1938 and then was also in attendance of the passing of a baby named Donald Harris in 1940? Weird, right? And just to be clear, that we're going to show you that certificate because it would mean that there were two Donald Harris babies born that Beryl was around. One was hers and one, I don't know, guys. It's getting weird. I'm going to finish this email, then we're going to talk about it. I have looked for the infant's father, Albert Harris, and cannot find a lot about him. Albert's father name was Abraham Harris. I believe it is possible he was married to a Violet Fearon on the 6th of March, 1935. No record of her passing, so why was she not at her child's death? But Beryl Harris was. Was this baby Beryl's or Violet's? If Donald Harris passed 1 year old, who is the man claiming to be Kamala's father? Oh my gosh, chill. She wrote, make it make sense. I'll keep digging.
Come on, y'all. The rabbit hole goes deep. If we got a person that's a baby that's dead, death record signed by your grandmother, and the same name of that baby that died is the name of your father, but your father also claims to have been born 2 years prior in 1938, it don't make no sense. It looks like, if we're just going to speak candidly, it looks like the person that she's claiming as her father, it looks like the one strand that she's claiming her Black ancestry comes from, it looks like that may not even be her father at all. We got a death record for the person that's supposed to be your father. Who's this dude? What's going on?
Chills. I was like, what are you talking about? Have you opened this email so fast? It was crazy. And let me just show you the attachment. Chills. I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out all over again. It's hitting me. It's a second wave here of what? So yes, you will see that listed here. This is a death certificate that is on the 29th of November, 1940. Okay. In St. Anne Parish. That obviously is where her family is from. And yes, the child's name was Donald Harris. The child died before the child turned 2. So this would mean that it is plausible that this child was born in 1938, the exact same year that Donald J. Harris, Kamala's father, was born. Okay. Can you pull it back up? I'm not done reading through this. Okay. So you have also, it says the certified cause of death is fever and a cold. And it's letting you know, it says the duration of the illness, so that this baby was sick for 1 month, rest in peace. And it does mention that that baby is the son of Albert Harris. And just as this person speculates, it is signed by Beryl Harris. And it tells you, because you're supposed to include this, the signature of the person who was present at the death. And it says Beryl Harris, present at the death.
Guys, the rabbit hole runs deep. Guys, this makes absolutely no sense. This is who Kamala wants us to believe is her father, Donald J. Harris, born in 1938, the same year that we have another Donald Harris dying in 1938. And the reason why this is so profound, because on the surface level, you guys could say, well, Mike, it's just a coincidence. There was a baby named Donald Harris that died at the same year that a baby named Donald Harris was born. But here's the weird part. This Donald Harris's mother signed the death certificate for the other Donald Harris that died at the same year this Donald Harris was allegedly born. Come on, make it make sense. Again, you guys could say on surface level, hey, this is just a case of the same name. For example, my name is Michael Lane. That's a pretty common name. I'm sure, even though I'm born in 1994, I'm sure there was maybe another baby named Michael Lane that died in the same year I was born. But you know what would be freaking weird about that? If my mother signed the death certificate for that other baby named Michael Lane that died in the same year that I was born. Do you guys understand now? I hope I've made it clearer than Candace Owens was able to disseminate the information. But guys, this makes no sense. What is Kamala hiding? The truth is stranger than fiction, by far. By far.
And that is at Mount Moriah in St. Anne. Now, I want to be clear, there is no place to put the mother's name. So it's not like there's anything like strange here. I just think that if this is this Beryl's child and this Beryl Harris was married to this Albert Harris or together with this Albert Harris at some time, like that is the reason why it just says that present for the death. Like literally, who else would be present? If your child is dying less than 2 years old, okay, barely 2 years old, who would you allow to be there in your place? There's no mother on earth that wouldn't be next to their child. So it is very heavily suggested that Beryl Harris was there for the presence of her son, Donald Harris, dying. And that would put that approximate birth of that baby at 1938. Stop the press. Stop the press. Okay. So you can imagine me. Now you're me sitting up straight. Like, what is going on here? Like, actually, what do I know about Kamala's father? Like, this could be a coincidence. I'm sure. Yeah, I guess you could have like a lot of Beryls that are giving birth to Donalds in the year 1938 in St. Anne Parish. Of course, like you have to consider every possibility here, but also consider that this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Okay. So then I received a second email. Okay. Very interesting here. Very interesting here. And I'm just going to read the email. I'm just going to read the email and take you through this. What happens when I go through my info box? I tell you guys to message with deets. This email says, "Hi, Candace. See the death certificate below indicating that Beryl Christie was a domestic servant in 1936 when her infant daughter died." So there's another, and this person has written Beryl Christie, and
Fred said, who was Donald J. Harris's mother? Apparently it was Beryl Christie. And what we're learning here is that the man that they allege is her father really may not even be her father, really on some real CIA psyop type shit. But if that is her father, well, his father was a Irish slave master and his mother was a servant or a Jamaican slave of sorts. So, you know, this gets weird when we find that this Beryl, who was a servant, died 4 years before Kamala was born, yet Kamala posts pictures of her with some woman she claims is her grandmother. Guys, the rabbit hole just keeps getting deeper.
And lost her daughter, and I'm going to pull it up here at the bottom of this email. She talks about like the birth dates. I'll get to that later. Do you guys have a close-up of this? Yeah. Okay. So you can see here, it is Beryl Christie. And this would mean not only did Beryl Christie lose a child in 1940, but prior to that, Beryl Christie lost a daughter in 1936. Okay. Again, all we have here is Beryl Christie. We know that this is potentially the right Beryl. Again, there could be another Beryl Christie going around. I don't want to completely close the door on that, but it is interesting. And I'll tell you why this struck me as incredibly interesting, because when we spoke about the death certificate yesterday, right? And we spoke about this young death of a woman. She's particularly died, Beryl Christie, of fibroids.
And yes, T, Kamala wrote that book. It was already being set up for her to become president. Yes, that book, that memoir that Kamala Harris published was in 2019. The only evidence that we have to support Kamala claiming she's black is her own book, where she has a picture with a black lady she claims is her grandma. But when we go through the paper trail genealogy, we find that woman who's a grandmother died 4 years before she was born. So the math ain't mathin'. We know presidents are selected and not elected. And if they know several years down the line, we need to do an Obama 2.0. We need to get an immigrant that looks like they could be a little black and get them to cosplay for the black vote. Well, hey, we're going to position Kamala.
Related to a hysterectomy. So if there is a Beryl Christie that had back-to-back, had lost children in some regard, you could imagine that she might have been injured internally. This is a long time ago. You would imagine that the procedures, obviously, are not what they are today. And it is plausible that that woman died young of fibroids from a hysterectomy related to the fact that she had 2 troubling births, whatever it is, carrying children didn't work out for her. I just thought okay, but the big part about that second one is that we now know for a fact that there was a Beryl Christie that was, in fact, a domestic servant. Can you pull that back up again? Because I want to point that out so people can see this. The last one, the close up of it, if we can. You can see that she is listed as a domestic servant. That girl is listed as the daughter of Beryl Christie. You can see that in that where it says rank, profession, or occupation, daughter of Beryl Christie, domestic servant. I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm trying to now, I'm putting in columns to sort through the various Beryl Christies that were born around this time. Like I said, you guys keep sending me stuff, but just to make sure you're filtering yourself, we know for a fact that Beryl Christie was born in 1917. We know for a fact that Beryl Christie got married in 1944. To Lawland Newford, or whatever his name is, Lawford Newland, pardon. And so we don't need a bunch of documents speculating that it could be a different birth, because her parents are listed, and Kamala and her father have confirmed that her parents are Iris and Patrick Finnegan. Okay. So we know those are the people that we are looking for.
Come on, guys. Now, do you understand the importance of paper trail genealogy research? Kamala Harris could have pulled a Obama and really passed for one of us. She talks like us. She acts like us when she needs to. But when we look through the paper trail genealogy, we find that truth is stranger than fiction. And when Black Americans do the same and finally map out their family tree, we learn that most of us don't descend from African slaves. About slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a Native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
The first time ever since obviously being on YouTube for over 5 years, I have ever booked a session, and man, I'm glad that it was with you, Mike. And I look forward to being one of your testimonials of I'm going down this journey, so my family can start to get a sense of who really we are, and not just leave it as stories out there floating, but really get to the weeds of things, and I can do better, and I can teach my daughter exactly, not from her mom's side, but from her father's side, what your bloodline really is, and be proud of that. I thank you for that, Mike.
You to remember this, you not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings, Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them, and this shit get way deeper than your pigment. What?
So we know those are the people that we are looking for. Oddly enough, though, because a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that in her birth certificate, even though we know that that's her mom, Iris, that's the mom's name, Iris Finnegan, it says Magdalene, and then suddenly it converts to Christie. Well, I just wanted to point out to you, because that was a question we were getting a lot, is why would she take on Christie? In Donald Harris's piece, he writes explicitly that Miss Iris, so that's Kamala's great grandmother, that her husband was known as Mr. Christie. So I'll read you that paragraph. It says, Miss Iris, mother of 8 children, I can't find 8 children, by the way, was the sweetest and gentlest person one could meet, but underneath it was a tough farming woman who ran the cane farm at Thatch Walk, jointly owned with her husband, Mr. Christie. So the reason she may have put Christie or started using Christie as a middle name is because that would mean that her father was being called Mr. Christie. Again, we are getting that directly from Donald J. Harris, who I'm now very interested in. I'm now very interested in this particular Donald J. Harris. Obviously, very easy way to debunk this. And maybe there really was just another Beryl Christie that happened to have a child named Donald in the same year from the same parish, would be to just take a look at Kamala's father's birth certificate. And we can't find that.
Hey, on some Obama, Trump, where's the birth certificate type shit, right? Shout out to American Holocaust Survivor. They say she should be able to show old family reunion pics. None of us have dots on our heads. Hey, I found her family reunion pics, and this is what it looks like. I see dots on the head. The arrow was pointing to Kamala. I know you probably couldn't recognize her there for a moment, but that red arrow is pointing towards Kamala Harris. That's her people. That's her family. Let's play, instead of Where's Waldo, let's play Where's the Black Person. I don't see one, do you? But I digress.
We quite literally cannot find that. And I find that to be very strange. People were writing to me saying, hey, it looks like this was purposefully removed, that his birth certificate was removed. And I would just like to find it because it would just kind of let me be at ease and know that there's nothing further to look.
Guys, this is some CIA psyops type shit. Her father was allegedly born the same year that someone of the same name died, and his mother signed the death certificate for the other baby with the same name that died at the same year that he was born. And as a genealogist, I can tell you, birth certificates are public record. If I know your first and last name, I can find your birth certificate. It's not hard to find. It's all public. So the fact we can't find a birth certificate on her father, oh, Lord, that's the cherry on top. That's how you know this is a psyops. We got more questions than answers.
Look at other than this child, because it's just a very, very strange thing. Okay, I also wanted to just go over everything we do know about Donald J. Harris because I was interested in him suddenly. And the first thing is he, according to him, like Miss Christie in this piece is his paternal grandmother. He calls her Miss Christie. He acknowledges that they were descendants of the slave owner Hamilton Brown. And he is the founder of Brownstown. That's another thing that strikes me as very odd. And maybe there's something I'm missing here.
I told you guys earlier, her daddy is a descendant of a slave master that has a town named after him. Didn't I say that? Don't you know me as the king of receipts? It's called Brownstown. Damn, she's trying to cosplay as one of us, and they got a whole town in Jamaica named after her slave holding ass ancestors. Okay.
Here, but if you were a person that established a town and you had over 1,000 slaves, would you really just openly be married to some of these slaves? Like, is that something that would happen? I know that obviously they would have relations with the slaves, and that's something that is a reality. But in the way that they speak about their family, it's like they were just openly married with slave owners and slavers, which I find to be a little bit strange. As I said, he claims that Miss Christie owned and operated a dry goods store, and that she died in 1951 at the age of 70. Then we have Miss Iris, who he mentions. That's the maternal grandmother. We can actually get up this. We can get up the family tree so people can see this. He mentions Miss Iris, and that is the person that he completely fawns over. That's his maternal grandmother, Miss Iris. She was a farmer, an educator, he claims. And he also says, which I find to be quite strange, remember, he says he has the strongest relationship with Miss Iris, doesn't even mention his mother, Beryl. By the way, these photos are the ones that have been provided by Kamala herself and her father. I cannot verify that these are accurate photos, but we're just going to use the ones that they're given. But what's quite strange is he says that Miss Iris's ancestry is unknown to him. So I guess they never had that conversation despite how close they are. Again, she jointly owned the farm with her husband, Mr. Christie, and he died in 1981 at the age of 93. Sorry, pardon. He says that she died at the age of 93 at the age of 1981. That's Miss Iris. Then you have Joseph Alexander Harris. Now that is the person who we are to understand that she was married to. The Harris name comes from his paternal grandfather, Joseph Alexander Harris. He was the landowner and the agricultural produce export, and he refers to the family property as Orange Hill. I think we need some Jamaicans to go out here and just start verifying stuff for me. And that Uncle Newton took over Orange Hill and started a limestone mining and brick producing operation in addition to cattle, grass, fruit.
Come on, y'all. Come on. Critical Thinker says, we aren't playing with her. Candace pulled up her genealogy. That's what I'm saying. I don't rock with Candace Owens, but as a full-time genealogist, I appreciate the paper trail research she did. This is what I teach you guys how to do day in and day out. We got to do this for our own families to learn where we come from and what our history is, because it's not what they taught us in a public education school system. The same kind of diligent effort that Candace and her team went through to trace Kamala's genealogy, we got to do it with ours. But yeah, this is wild, guys. She wants to cosplay as one of us, and turns out she descends from slave masters with a whole town named after them.
Pimiento farming of earlier times. Now, again, I am just trying to understand how she came from a middle-class background. I mean, people that had slaves were super wealthy. It sounds like they always owned land, that they always potentially had servants. So I'm just trying to understand where this middle-class background comes from. My producer put in a note here that people in the live chat are saying that it's a Creole language that's native to Jamaica when he starts speaking in this tongue.
Damn, Candace is so not like us. You mean Creole? You mean Creole? She said a Creole. That's Creole, Candace. The words you're looking for is Creole.
Okay, I literally didn't know that. I'm sorry, but I just found that he was writing in this way, which I found to be quite strange. I felt like he was trying to sell to us they were definitely Jamaican, or they were like descended from slaves, and they had slaves. So obviously his family actually had slaves, thousands of slaves there. So I thought that he was trying to lean into the slave language. So I'll correct that if that's actually English Creole. Okay, I'm going to take a break here and just speak about one of the sponsors of the show before I get into some of your comments and we speak more about this. This episode is sponsored by Nimi Skincare.
Hey, time out. T. Delgado. We know that Candace is not foundational. We know that Candace Owens is not a native Black American, but if a tether gonna snitch on her fellow tether, I'm gonna take notes while that tether snitching, okay? They say the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I ain't gonna go that far with no Candace Owens, but I am gonna peep game and take notes when the tethers start infighting and snitching on one another. Come on. Come on. We got some tether on tether violence, y'all. Some tether on tether crimes are occurring, y'all. Let's talk about it. I got my popcorn ready. Let's go.
So first responding to that, yeah, I don't know if he was trying to write English Creole. I actually never knew that that was a language that was native to Jamaica.
And yes, she just said Creole again. She keeps saying Creole like Crayola. It's Creole, woman. It's Creole.
But I do find it very interesting that that's something that he included all throughout this piece. And I would question some of the spelling of things like, is Creole, do you actually spell Y-U for you? Or is he just trying to basically signal to us that this was his family? Anyways, literally did not know that. She learned something new every single day. So I also had a ton of other people that introduced some other things that I was not aware of. And I'm just going to kind of go through other things that people brought up that I found to be very interesting. First and foremost, someone told me to take a look again at Kamala's birth certificate. Chris, I don't know if I told you to pull that, but going to her original birth certificate, yeah. So they said, this person emailed me and they were just like, okay, Candace, it is amended in the middle there. So you see there's a stamp in the middle of her birth certificate that says amended 1 of 2.
And you see what it says for her mother? Caucasian. Yeah. And what does it say for her father? Jamaican. Jamaican is a nationality that's not an ethnicity. You see how they playing in our face? The mother's Caucasian, even though she's a Hindu Indian, and the father's a Jamaican. The color or race of the father is Jamaican. Jamaican is not a color. Jamaican is not a race. That is a nationality. Wow. Wow. Her mother is a Caucasian from India, and her father is a Jamaican from Jamaica. Why isn't her mother an Indian from India? Why is her mother not an Indian from India? And why don't we be more specific about her father's ethnicity and then put his birthplace as Jamaica? Yo, this is wild. Oh, and please don't tell me Candace is out here offering genealogy services for $1,000. Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. Lord, oh Lord. People out here trying to tax black folks. Okay, I do genealogy consultations for $75. If you want me to do your family tree, help you with tribal affiliation, we can talk about that during the consultation. But yeah, a lot of people getting over on this genealogy research. A lot of folks. Matter of fact, Ancestry.com is one of them, y'all. Ancestry.com is one of the main culprits getting over on our community. Watch this, y'all. Candace wants 1,000. Well, if I look up a genealogy specialist with Ancestry.com, Ancestry.com says that they'll have a genealogy specialist help me out for prices as low as $3,500. Oh, Lord, look how they try to screw over black folks. If you want a genealogy specialist to help you out with Ancestry.com, you need to pay them the price of a used Honda Accord. Now you understand why I do what I do. Now you understand, in a time where on a national level, Black Americans are getting in touch with our heritage, we're questioning genealogy, we're questioning slave narratives, and we're realizing, hey, grandmama always told us that we native. At a time like this, when it's paramount for all of us to do genealogy research, we got folks like this trying to grift the hell out of our community. It's a damn shame, y'all. It's a goddamn shame. And T. Gado says the birth certificate that Judge Joe Brown shared showed the father is a Caucasian Indian.
Own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
Give me
a definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always identified as a Black woman. She went to a historically Black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think
she is
somebody should look into that too when you continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be.
You're not a colleague, you a fucking colonizer. The family matter and the truth of the matter. It was God's plan to show y'all the liar. They not like us. 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 I see dead people.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like this. Oh, we got to go support the sister. We can get a black woman in the White. No, you're not getting one. Her daddy says his entire background is either Caucasian Irish or Caucasian Hindu. His Irish ancestors owned a bunch of slaves, and none of his ancestors were slaves. He has a grandmother who is a dark-skinned Hindu who was a house servant. So where does Kamala get her black ancestry since her mother is classified as a Caucasian Tamil Hindu Brahmin caste person? They're dark-skinned, but they're known anthropologically as Indo-Aryans, I-N-D-O hyphen.
Aye, mustard on the beat, ho, Debo, any rap nigga, he a freak throw, man down, call her Amber Lambs, tell him breathe, bro, nail a nigga to the cross, he walk around like Tizo. What's up with these jabroni ass niggas trying to see Compton? The industry can hate me, fuck them all and they mama. How many options you really got? I mean, it's too many options. I'm finna pass on this body, I'm John Stockton. Beat your ass and hide the Bible if God watching.
So nice. Are you stressed for making Indian food?
Oh my God, you do have to taste just, oh my, you have no idea. This is how my mother kept all of her stuff.
This is so funny. I told my dad, I was like bringing over the stuff from the store. He's like, obviously I put them in Taster's Choice.
But
and
this
brought them
literally
over.
was how my mother kept all of this stuff.
That's
We
so
would have
funny.
this thing- What is that?
Do they tell each
I
other?
don't know.
Taster's Choice.
Hi guys, it's Mindy. I'm here in my kitchen. And today we are cooking, but we have a very special guest. Very special. Senator Kamala Harris.
Hi guys.
Sometimes you gotta pop out and show niggas. Certified boogeyman, I'm the one that up to score with him. Walking down whole time, I know he got some hoe in him. Pull on him, extort shit, bully the flow on him. Say Drake, I hear you like I'm young. You better not ever go to cell block 1. To any bitch that talk to him and they in love, just make sure you hide your little sister from him. They tell me Chubb's the only one that get your hand-me-downs. And party at the party playing with his nose now. And Baca got a weird case, why is he around? Certified lover boys, certified pedophiles. Wop, 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 wop. That fuck him up. Wop, 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 wop. I'ma do my stuff. Why you trolling like a bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor.
Wait, so here's what I want to know.
Okay.
Is it respectful to call, like, I should be calling you Senator Harris, right?
No, you should not. That's not on my birth certificate.
Okay.
Call
Kama?
Yes, please.
Okay, because the Indian in me, I feel like my parents,
Just
my
don't
dad
call
will
me-
watch this.
Just don't call me auntie.
Okay, I won't call you auntie. They'll be like, how could you call her by her first name? She's worked so hard. Okay, so what we're gonna cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
you are
Yes,
Indian.
yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president.
Yeah.
So we're both Indian,
Yes.
but actually we're both South Indian.
Yes. You look like the entire one half of my family.
Okay, thank you.
You do.
I've been telling people
You
we're
do.
related already,
Yeah.
so this is perfect. It's basically true.
They not like us. 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 You think the Bay gon' let you disrespect Pop, nigga?
They keep telling us this woman is going to be the first Black American female president. Not only is she not Black American, but she came from an immigrant mother from India, and her father, born in Jamaica, is Irish and Indian. They've been getting over on us since 2020, telling us this woman was Jamaican. And of course, when people hear that, they automatically believe that her father is Black. But no, her father is Indian and Irish. And he's very proud to be a descendant of an Irish slave master. There's a whole town named after this slave master in Jamaica. But they fool us because of her parents' skin color. They have brown skin, so we think they're Black, when neither one of them are.
I think that Oakland show gon' be your last stop, nigga. They cold foul. I don't know why you still pretending. What is the owl? Bird niggas and bird bitches. Go.
But Aryans look exactly like Kamala Harris. They're swarthy, dark-haired, dark-eyed, and they're classified as Caucasian. So she's got a Caucasian mother, Caucasian dad. Where the hell does she come in being Black? And even if her great-grandmother was part Black, that's still not enough to make her black in America. She'd still be a typical white person.
The audience not dumb. Shape the stories how you want. Hey Drake, they're not slow. Rabbit hole is still deep. I can go further, I promise. Ain't there some be rest that's for bitching? You Malibu most wanted.
And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me.
Biden turned and looked at her like, who? Well, Kamala said it was her, but Judge Brown is saying she went to school in Canada K through 12. As a child, after her parents broke up, she moved to Canada with her mother, graduated.
I wonder if you know that I know he's lying right now. Oh, you got the new Margellas? That's what's up, that's what's up, I see you. That's your BMW? That's nice. That's your girl? Golly. Okay, I see you. But I just want to know one thing. You ready? Why the fuck you lying?
There, didn't move back to America until she went to college.
She was born in the same hospital in the same 12-month period my ex-wife was, and my ex, now late mother-in-law, was a paternity nurse in the same delivery room where she was born. So, yeah, she comes from that, but her mother was a Hindu, a visiting scholar, and her daddy was a visiting Hindu scholar, also professor. So how does she become from that background? She becomes a black woman. She's not. She's a fake. She's been faking her whole damn life.
You know, love boy, you ball boy, fresh Gatorade or something. Since 2009, I had this bitch jumping. You niggas would get a wedgie, be flipped over your boxes, or over your foe. The other vaginal option, pussy.
So I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
So we can stop all this foolishness about what you're doing for black people.
You want to see what the deal is? If you're white and black, do they call you white? No. They call you black.
About slavery, but few discuss paper genocide. We did not all come from Africa, and most of us have Aboriginal roots that were stripped away due to reclassification and miseducation. As a native Black American and a member of the Muscogee Creek Nation, I understand the importance of tracing your lineage. If you want to learn how to trace your genealogy and apply for tribal citizenship, send an email to mike@keymediapro.com to schedule a consultation.
I know how to make a mean pot of greens. In fact, people used to ask me to make greens for them for Christmas. One year, I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. You keep repeating the same old plantation bullshit, tired narrative we outgrew. Jokes on you. Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless.
You support reparations for black people. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm gonna do something that's only gonna benefit black people. No.
Can't listen to the lies no more. You barratchiness and twerking in our face to degrade our image. It's not us, it's you. It shows your level of ignorance, not ours. Now the joke's on you. Your prejudice attitude is a bust. You try to make us the butt of your jokes, but you're exposing yourself. Oh.
So instead of Kamala Harris giving us policy to benefit black people, she gave us shaking Megan Thee Stallion. That is what she thinks black people deserves.
Look at this. Somebody come look at this. Look at this.
You misrepresent us, but we stand tall. Confident in our lineage, proud and strong. Your stereotypes don't define our soul. We break barriers, taking control. You can paint us wrong, but we stand right, rise above all hate. Unified, no debate. Broke free from the chains we faced by all the noise. But keep talking, you're the fool. We play it cool. Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. You keep repeating the same old plantation bullshit, tired narrative we outgrew. Joke
So I know how to make a mean pot of greens. I had so many that I had to wash that we ended up washing them in the bathtub.
Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. Ooh. Collard greens in a bathtub, an image that's cheap and classless. Ooh. Same type directives that we approve, but we see through your facade. Jokes on you. Jokes on you.
I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street. Everyone's like, you know, Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about to have you running for president. Yeah. So we're both Indian, yes, but actually we're both South Indian.
Yes.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a black woman.
I
She went to
respect
historically
either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person.
Just to be clear.
Hey, all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a black person. Oh Lord, that kills me every time, y'all. That cracks me up each and every time. But let's get serious, shall we? Smash the like button on the way in, hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. You know they got your boy demonetized and shadow banned and all that good stuff. But still, we're here giving you the content you desperately need. We've probably all by now heard the remarks that Kamala's made, kind of diminishing the need of reparations. I mean, she flat out said she's not going to just do something for black folks. I mean, it took her so long to even speak of any policy that she was planning to implement if she was granted the presidency. But, you know, it seems that she's really doubling down on the no reparations. And this really becomes such a paradox because on the one hand, her main strength that she's running with is, you know, her alleged black identity. But on the other hand, she's saying she's not going to do something that a vast majority of black Americans want to be done, which is restitution, which is rectification, which is reparations for the atrocity, not just of slavery, but all the other institutions and policies thereafter, from redlining to Jim Crow, miscegenation laws, and everything in between. So it's very interesting that this lady wants to double down on the no reparations, but let's go ahead and get on into it, shall we?
Opposes reparations for Black Americans. During her interview with the National Association for Black Journalists, Kamala Harris completely skirted the issue that has been gaining momentum, driven by the broad support nationwide from the Black community. Let's take a look.
I want to switch gears to racial justice, Madam Vice President. Last month, you eulogized Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah.
Jackson Lee's signature bill, one of a few, was H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study the history of U.S. slavery and study the issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator. Yet, this has, despite the fact that this has been, similar commissions have been created on the state level and on the local level, is yet to pass in Congress, let alone come out of committee. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and other advocates have called for President Biden to take executive action to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Come on, guys. This commission that they're referring to is a commission they created in California, where they were supposed to form some type of group to look into the possibility of reparations and how it would be distributed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a very interesting question, and I wonder what her answer is going to be. You would think naturally, especially since she's running under, I'm going to be the first Black president, you would think it's going to be a simple yes. Yes, as president, I will put forth committees and different organizations that are going to look into implementing reparations. Let's see if we're going to get a simple yes.
Well, first of all, I just, as you mentioned, Sheila.
Oh, shaky start. Oh, it's so shaky, y'all. It's looking real rocky. She said, well, first of all, Yeah, all right, guys. Let's take a look.
Action to take to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Well, first of all, I just, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she was an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost, and she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward, look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history, in spite of the fact that some people would try and erase history and try and teach our children up.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar with the theater of politics, this is called filibustering. She's giving us a bunch of word salad while she desperately tries to think of what to say next. Oh, well, first of all, that lady you mentioned, I think she's great. And yeah, a strong person. Yeah. And yeah, this is something that, first of all, we have to look into history because some people that deny history, come on, we see through you. We're much more intelligent than you give us credit for. Can we get a simple answer? Will you, as president, form committees to look into reparations? We're not even talking about you definitively saying, yes, you're going to give out reparations, but can we at least get a hard yes on you putting together some committees to look into it?
He was a friend and
They don't want you to remember this. You not no slave, you indigenous. Fuck how they painted them Indians. You went to war with the French and the British, man. Quite frankly, you was kings Merovingians. They took the women and men, made them prisoners, raised up the children to worship their images, set up a lab to the genes and they mixed them. And this shit get way deeper than your pigment.